So, hold on. Looking for one thing that I thought I had next to me, but I guess I don't. Well, I'll just roll these two then. So, the Hierophant, or the Hierophant. This, notice me, Guru! Literally. So, taking it from the top. The Hierophant, you're going to see me kind of go all over the place a little odd, so, because I'm going to be sharing this places, so bear with my face. So, Hee-Hoo-Phant. This is probably one of the cards that is the most differently depicted depending on the deck creator. And I mean, there's so many ways that this card can be depicted. Some decks have him as a pope going in the pose that he's doing, like a Notice Me Guru. And there is this one is the Haunted House Tarot. And this one actually has the Hee-Hoo-Phant look like a Catholic priest doing an exorcism. There's that one. And then we have, I believe this is the Epic Tarot, and this is Chiron from Greek mythology. And I mean, look at his hand pose. Okay. I like that one. Here's it in Louis the Scott. Here's the one from the Royo, R-O-Y-O Tarot. Now this one's completely different. It's like, there's no Notice Me Guru in that one. That one's a different one. See if I can find the ones in this deck, because this one is another different one. Enough of this deck is all dark in background, but I should find a cord. Where, oh where is the Hee-Hoo-Phant? Oh where did he go? And from the Black Alchemy Tarot, here's how he's depicted in this deck, which is kind of like the completely other end of the spectrum. Here's how he is in this deck, completely different than this one. It's like, wait a minute. That is like the opposite end of the spectrum, opposite end of the scale. And then we have the Hee-Hoo-Phant from Definitely Not Twilight. Like, okay. I see, okay. This is actually Tarot de la Nuit, by the way. It's like, okay. So we're having a guy like from Twilight being the Hee-Hoo-Phant, huh? Oh, I see. You're gonna try and make him be, you know, choir daddy. I see. Okay. There's that one. Then here is the one from Tarot Apocalypse. Completely different with this one too. Completely different. Then from Grand Lux, this one's a bit of a different one too. There's this one. It kind of looks like you're going in to do some confessing. Here's the one from Universal Celtic Tarot. I just had it on the bottom of the deck, but oh well. And if you're starting to see that, the way that this one card is depicted it's usually not the same depiction or like the same message being conveyed. Because throughout, oh here it is from this deck. Yeah, it's completely different. It's not like His Holiness the Popo. Anyway, this looks like Gandalf. Hey Kayla, like Gandalf, how'd you get here? And then here is again. I thought I had it on the deck bottom, but oh well. Then the one from the Erotic Fantasy Tarot, which is a bit odd. Yeah, but it's like, notice me! I'm an old bag and I forgot my pants. Okay. But he's masked. There's that one. And I think this is my last example that I have. Unless another deck decides to jump out of my face. Nope, this is the last one. And then here's this one. There's that Hee-Hoo-Phant. Oh. The Hierophant card, I have to say, is a card that you have to adapt with. Because this Hee-Hoo-Phant is different from this one. And different from this one. Definitely different from this one. Different from that one. A little bit, kind of more different than that one. And that one. And that one. A little bit different than that one. Yeah, different from that one. Different. Also, kind of very different than that one. And substantially different than this one. Substantially different. Like, by a lot. So, the point I'm trying to make is that depending on which deck you're using, the Hierophant card is going to be changing its energy and its tone. Because not all Hee-Hoo-Phants are made equal. Yeah, not all Hee-Hoo-Phants are made equal, because if we're just going to stick with the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction, just you. If we're just going to stick with this, well, first and foremost, we have a Pope figure in the middle, okay? And usually it's believed the Pope is like a guiding light figure. Kind of like a guru figure, except one problem. The Pope is a figure that gets a lot of attention, and he's dressed very lavishly. One of the things that a guru figure does not like is to be noticed and everybody can see him. And he doesn't like flaunting his title around. The way that the Pope carries himself, he kind of flaunts himself in a way, because based on how he's dressed. Because a guru doesn't really put himself out there to get noticed. He just guides his people. Now, though, the Hierophant is, at least in this depiction, is more than just a teaching figure. It's also a figure that likes to teach by intimidation. Because what is the most common thing that is taught with that faith? You either convert or you're going to hell. There's your teaching by intimidation. That's just how it is. And is also weaponizing religion and faith. It's also constricting divinity just by this one card. And it's also hints at also not being able to question authority and not to question those that are like elders in the belief system, like a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not saying anything bad about it, that's just how it is. It is what it is. To me, this is not really a Venus card. I don't see it. I can completely understand it being a Taurus card because of the lavishness of the notice me, notice my bling. I can understand that, but Venus is a planet that wants to enjoy the world and pretty much share the experience of the senses. The guru and the Pope and the objective of the Pope is to not really enjoy the world. That's not really the intention of him, at least based on this depiction. But now let's scooch over to say, let's scooch over to this one. Let's look at this Hee-Hoo-Phant. So, again, we have an elder figure, just like, well, we have one that's a little bit older than the other one, and it looks like he's holding on to an occultic book, and he's kind of, he has his eyes closed. For some reason, he has a pimp cane, the sphere on top of it, and on this, on the front of this book, it has a sun and the earth on the cover. He has a Santa-like beard, and for some reason he has a little bird next to his left. And he also has a thick, like a little bowl that has fire in it. So, yeah, they can. They can in also tradition, but now here's, for this one, it looks like he's taking that book and he's like, what is this? What is this blasphemy? So, essentially now with this Hierophant, yeah, you could say that. I'm trying to find a good way to word it. You could say this Hierophant is indicating that knowledge is being stolen, tradition is being stolen, history or anything that's written down or knowledge, pretty much knowledge is being withheld, knowledge is being taken away, knowledge is in the hands of somebody who is manipulating it to their will. Knowledge or history of ancient ways is being taken away. Knowledge is about to be set on fire. History is about to be destroyed. Because you see that little fire thing and is right above it, the book. Yeah. And I mean, this could even hint at, somebody who's saying, like, somebody's using their faith as a weapon. They're weaponizing their faith and burning books. Just by this one card. And I mean, you can kind of see how drastic of a turn that took. It's the same card, just depicted differently, and the message is completely different. Let's move to an oddball one. Let's go with this one. From the Royal Tarot, we have a woman figure looking up to a dragon figure who is breathing fire, and she's actually looking like she's listening to the dragon speak. and the dragon has a book open with its claws on one of the pages, and she is resting her arms on a pile of books. So now this Hierophant is actually really a guru figure. He is actually teaching her whatever subject she's inquiring about. And the dragon is very passionate in the way he's teaching it because of the fire coming out of his mouth. And she is completely entranced by what he's teaching her. So most definitely you can say that possibly someone is actually learning something that's outside their tradition, or there's a teacher that is a different background teaching somebody else who's another different background. But somebody who's teaching has a lot of zest in the way they're teaching, and their apprentice or student is actually heavily engaged in learning from them. The teacher figure may be intimidating to some, but to this student, they're not intimidated at all. They're heavily engaged. And the teacher figure is actually using his own notes and what he's learned to better enhance teaching the student. Completely different tone that I was just saying about the other ones, the other two. It completely changed. It's just like that's how much of a whoa things can go. Let's move over to the definitely not Twilight one. Okay, so we have we have a young guy who kind of he kind of looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, I'm just doing what my dad taught me. So you can possibly say this young Hierophant figure may be trying to teach, but he has no idea what he's teaching. He's kind of like playing the part to look cute, but have no idea how to teach it. He's like, oh, I'm a guru. Okay, guide me through life. So this Hierophant can possibly be somebody teaching a subject that they don't know much about. Or they may think that they know what they're talking about, but clearly they have no idea what they're doing. And yes, Kat, actually, at least for me, the Hierophant card, based on this one, I see it as a Capricorn card. Because Capricorn is a card of, it's a sign of status, and the Pope is a status that gets flaunted. It's like, okay. Notice me! Look at my big shiny crown and my title! I'm a Pope! Okay, still. And usually, going back to this one, this Hierophant figure may not be the most trusted. Because it kind of looks like, looking on his face, it looks like he has an alternative motive. And it also doesn't help that, it doesn't help that his fingers and his staff have two lights connecting to each other. So it's kind of like he's hinting that he's using unspoken communication to intimidate somebody to listen. So mainly this Hierophant is very young, naive, and possibly risks not knowing what he's doing. Now, grand looks. Talk about, notice me! I mean, for goodness sakes, he has the light, the sun behind him. So this is possibly when somebody is using their title a bit too loud, that it's blinding people. And that they're trying to appear to be really supportive and having the best intentions. They're trying to put on that facade, but deep down they're not really, because they're overkilling the pureness. and they're missing the point. As well, this kind of also can be an intimidation of actually like someone fearing to confess something. Like at least in this depiction, the Hierophant is a figure that is all by himself and he has the light behind him. So it can kind of show that he might be having some secrets of his own because he's the only shadow thing present. Odd. If you take a look at the very top, like right here, you'll see a bird face. You can get in there. Like right there. See if I can put my finger next to it. There we go. Like right there. Do you see the Tweety bird face? What has been seen cannot be unseen. Like literally. There we go. Does that not look like Tweety bird's face? My good sir, His Holiness the Pope. How the heck did Tweety get there? The things you find in cards sometimes. But primarily, this Hierophant is actually having the message of actually having something being confessed and pretty much intimidated to be confessed about. So that one is a little bit more flamboyant in his status flaunting. And now let's scooch over to this one. So this Hierophant is completely different. This one is actually teaching the ancient ways and actually relying on nature to lead the way on teaching this child the ways of the faith. This, you can clearly see that he's not intimidating anybody. He's actually having, is that a dove? No, he's actually holding a bowling, I believe. And he's actually cutting down the greenery off the tree and having it be put into this white cloth. And from there, the young boy is like helping him. So in a way, this teacher figure and the student are working together to preserve a heritage or something that was handed down in their tradition. So they're maintaining that tradition. And it's actually very peaceful in this one. There's no intimidation. There's no being strict. It's just student and teacher are working together to preserve a tradition. So this one's actually a lot gentle, way more gentle than the other ones. And it's actually working together as a unit compared to, like, say, like the definitely not Twinkle Eye one. Okay, now we'll go to this one. Now this one's ironic. It's like, okay, why is the Hierophant? My good sir, you forgot your pants and your shirt. But it's essentially the same thing as this one, except without, except without the covering. The idea is the same. It is a little bit more suggestive. But I mean, this one, at least, this one's afraid to show his face. So this one might be being a guru and teaching about, about like that stuff. And he's ashamed of it. So he's ashamed of the subject he's teaching and guiding people in. Which is something that rude. Which is something that really should not be happening if you're teaching people. If you're teaching a subject, you should be confident in what you know about it and not be like, I'm going to cover my face. Which actually makes sense for that deck. So we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hierophants left. We'll go with Chiron next. Now, This Hierophant, completely different. This one is actually based off the Greek heroic figure Chiron, who was the centaur that was actually, instead of being barbaric, very intelligent and very wise. And also not wise enough to not shoot himself with his own arrow and, offing himself. So this one actually can be seen as a guiding light that, you have to be very careful with what it teaches you because it might cause immense damage if you're not careful. And he also may appear to be a little bit monstrous by stereotype. So now this one from the Haunted House Tarot. This Hierophant wants to exorcise something or get rid of something and drive something out. To the point where it's intimidation up the wazoo. So you can definitely see this one is actually being very judgmental and weaponizing their belief system. Specifically, too, this one may actually... This one, you can actually see someone potentially using their status to manipulate someone or control someone or force someone to do what they don't want to do. This one can also be seen for somebody who is violating somebody else's boundaries because, well, he's standing at the foot of somebody's bed. Not the most pretty thing to take a look at. There's that one. So we only have this, we have that one, this one. Okay. And now we're going to be going into this one from the Modern Spellcasters Tarot. We have this Hee-Hoo-Phant, which is actually using organized religion as a weapon. And it's trying to force those that are not the majority into submission. So those that practice faiths that are not of his faith are pretty much intimidated into submission, and they're being mistreated. And pretty much not given the same proper treatment as his faith. So now we're going to go into the last two, which take this card to a giant spin. This one. You can definitely see somebody practicing the left-hand path for this one. And this also can actually represent, I would have to say, either Satanas or Lucifer. Actually giving the advice and actually guiding the person. And this one is actually a lot more calming. And this one doesn't intimidate. Believe it or not, this one's not intimidating. But the figure is not putting his hands up high or low. He's staring and intently looking at you. Patiently and just ready just to listen to whatever you need to speak to him about. He's not raising his hand. He's not blingy bling. He's just present. Whatever you need to ask of him, he'll listen. And it's not really, not really a Taurus card in my opinion. And the last of the Mohicans, I believe, is this one. So this Hierophant is actually a monk. And this one is actually a real benefic version of the Hierophant. This one is showing that wisdom and knowledge and pretty much having the, I have to say, the knowing of a belief system and a faith. It can have the mastery at any age, and anybody can guide anybody else at any age, regardless of how old they are. Somebody can guide, like a child can guide an elder, the same way an elder can guide a child. Showing that faith and wisdom can be taught at any age. And this one actually shows the life process of a person. You have child, adult, elder, and then it goes back down again. So this one's actually really about keeping a belief system alive and showing that at any age, anybody can teach and guide another, regardless of any point of their life, they can still guide. So you can kind of see how this is one of the cards in the tarot that is very sensitive. This one, yes, it can. At least with this depiction, though. At least with this one. You're not gonna... I wouldn't see Buddhism in this one. I wouldn't. Not that one. Or this one. It all comes down specifically to just how the card's depicted. Like, this one is probably the one that's most destructive of history. Like I've said, not all Hee-Hoo-Phants are made or depicted the same or equal. They're all different. Every single one of them. And the message they convey is not the same. One may have an agenda that's good, one may have an agenda that is malefic, one may have an agenda to be noticed. Notice me, people. Yeah. It all just comes down to how the artist depicts them. But if we're going to go by generally, to me, it's a card that can be read as something that's rather intimidating to people, and also trying to force conversion onto someone, which is something you're not really supposed to do. Because the last thing you want to do is actually intimidate somebody into being forced to change what they believed, because if they don't convert, they're going to be burned alive or have something happen to them, which won't happen. And it's not really the way that you should be guiding people, guided by fear and intimidation, because that's not going to really benefit anybody. Really, pretty much that's what I got. And actually, it's actually a good card to actually help support the idea that when it comes to reading tarot, it's best to be an intuitive reader, not just by the book. Because if you read by the book, ideally, if you're just reading by the book, you're just... what's the point of having any other tarot deck except just this one? What makes the difference if you get another deck? Because you're reading all the decks the same, which is limiting yourself. And I'm somebody that is very adamant on don't limit yourself, don't do it, unless if you know if it's going to get you into a hot mess. Just like how the one with the occult book about a light on fire. Yeah, it's actually teaching a subject by how the elder wants to teach it. So somebody can be teaching it in a way that's completely polar opposite, and only they know how it really is. So it's like restriction of knowledge and learning and guiding people. It's like teaching... it's like equivocating the truth about a subject. It's not teaching it all the way, but it's still teaching it, but not like what it really is. It's giving some of it. It's like breadcrumbing the subject. Pretty much a short one today. And I mean, I forgot that I didn't charge my phone because now it's at 5%. So I'm just going to really just end the live here and come back on like a little bit later after my phone wakes up from near death. So I guess I'll just see you guys until that one.